everybody. Welcome back to a special edition of the Queen's Court. This time we are joined by two very special guests.
Very special indeed.
The VC, Omega Luke and Danny Boy Johnson. Thank you for taking the time to come and chat with us.
Oh, thank you very much for having us and for a very nice introduction. The fact that Dave calls us special is... we started off well.
Yeah, well, we try our best. We thought we'd start doing interviews again. The first people we wanted to interview was you two guys.
Now.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, you guys were on our radar for a little while, actually, that we did want to grab you guys for an interview. So, yeah, really good that that you could take the time
thank you very much.
To come and chat with us. How are you both doing?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you, Dan? You all right?
I'm all good.
Yeah. He's here.
We can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you. We're all good. Thank you very much for asking.
Yeah. So moving on, we'll start off with, how did you both get into wrestling? Easy question to start with.
Well, I started by actually going along to the first Reach shows, which obviously you guys were at as well, just as to watch, really. Obviously, I had my own podcast back then, which is why I used to go. And then from that, Grayson kind of invited me down to the training session once, but I didn't think I'd ever stick to it because I was always playing football. But then after a couple of training sessions, I quit football straight away. And I've done wrestling ever since. That was 2019.
Oh, wow. Now that you mentioned it, I do remember, like the seeing about the podcast and everything, originally back in the early days.
They were cracking shows, weren't they? Those early Reach shows.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, I used to enjoy doing the podcast back then because it was very new to me. All of like the independent scene, as well as obviously there was a lot of people that I met through that, so that was good fun.
Yeah. And how about you, Dan? How did you get into wrestling?
Around 2015, had a conversation with my father. It was my stepbrother's stag do. It was a very tame stag do, if I remember correctly. We had a conversation. Basically, he was talking about his boxing career in the army, and I'd make fun of it, just referencing Bobby Heenan and WrestleMania 8, saying, "Oh, that was amateur punk stuff. That doesn't count." And he said basically something along the lines of, "At least I tried something that I've always wanted to do. You never tried wrestling." So that lived in my head rent free for like a year. And then I saw that the Plymouth Wrestling Association were holding a induction. And I thought, okay, it's now or never. I'm getting on a bit. I'm not a young whippersnapper anymore. So I thought, if I don't try it, then I'm just going to be asking what if for the rest of my life. So September 25th, 2016, I, along with Alexander Gray, went to this induction, and 8 years later, I'm still here for my sins.
Yeah, because did you do some Pride shows back in the day?
So what was that?
Did you do some Pride shows back in the day?
Right, no, I didn't do any Pride shows. I held out Pride shows, but never got on a show. I did an Academy show for Pride where I dislocated my shoulder. That's my first show, by the way, so that was a good first impression. But other than that, just helped out, did the camera work, did the ring.
What's weird about Dan's first ever show where he dislocated his shoulder was that was the first show I ever went and watched live. That was my first ever wrestling show I watched live. It was when Dan dislocated his shoulder. Didn't know him.
It was meant to be.
You just made yourself memorable to him.
That idiot.
Yeah. So, like I say, I'm pretty sure I saw you at a Pride show, like helping out a few times, but yeah, so that's good.
Yeah.
So, given that you've both
and then when they collapsed in the summer of 2017, I helped out with I think it was Fight League, the next one. Helped out there a few times as well.
So, seeing as you've both got really different stories of how you got into wrestling, did you guys ever sort of intend at any point to become a tag team once you were both at Reach, or is it something that just kind of happened as you went on?
I always wanted to do a tag team because I think whenever I watch wrestling, tag team wrestling is my favorite, especially because around about that time as well, it was like NXT. So NXT tag team division was the best thing in wrestling at the time, with the likes of DIY and the Revival, etc. So I always really enjoyed watching tag team wrestling. So I always wanted to get into it. It wasn't when I first started. There was a few people who I joined at the same time with, the likes of Jordan Sparks. There was a couple of guys who never really made it onto shows, and Victor Brady as well. Who, and I was always thinking in my head, like, oh, maybe one of these guys could be like a future tag team partner. But it wasn't until Dan joined just after COVID, Dan, right? When you
so it was March 2020, so before the lockdowns happened, that's when I first joined Reach. But you were next. Some problems.
I had first baby. That was when I had my first one. So I missed the first training session when you joined. But then once we got back into the swing of things after COVID happened and we started training together, that was kind of when I don't think we didn't ever speak about it, was it? We were just put in a match against each other once, and we kind of made it off like we were best friends in that match. And then in a couple of promos, we kind of passed each other and made references to being best buds. And then from that, it was kind of we got stuck in a tag match against with each other. And then ever since, we've just always been tagging since, which is kind of cool, actually.
So I can remember when you first came into Reach as a tag team, you weren't really used as a tag team that much, were you? You had a lot of singles matches.
No.
Yeah, that's the trouble. I think the trouble was I was still very new. So I had a couple. My debut was Unit 10, but my debut on a live show was the Guildhall show. And then I only had a couple of matches on tapings and stuff. So I didn't really do live shows for a while, whereas Dan had been working for obviously years before Reach had started doing the Unit 10s and stuff, and so he had experienced live shows and was way more experienced than I was. So it was kind of good actually, because I was never getting put into matches, but I was able to be on the sideline of Dan's matches and learning off of Dan, because obviously he had been wrestling for a lot longer than me, had a lot of experience, and was way better. So it kind of helped me in a way, kind of pushed me along a little bit.
So what you're saying is Dan's the grizzled veteran compared to you, then?
Yeah, I might look older.
No comment. Well, you look like this, mate. Everybody looks young.
No comment.
That's what everyone does to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
so like Dave said, you've done a lot of singles matches as well as tag. Do you guys have any dream matches, either in singles or tag competition?
Go on, Dan. I'll let you take this one away.
Tag matches. Grizzled Young Vets. That's one that I really want to do. Also, Lycos Gym. There's a lot of really good tag teams out there right now. Especially over the last couple of years as well. I'd really love to wrestle the Blockbusters. Toby and Jordan. There's a long story there. Years and years. In fact, Toby made his debut against Omega Luke. We've also wrestled Jordan as well in Mevagissey. The Mevagissey Coliseum, it was on fire, brother. I'd love to wrestle the Blockbusters. New Vision, I love to wrestle New Vision. They're good lads. Techno Team 2000, if they ever come back, I would love to beat them up. But how about you, Luke?
Well, to be fair, I think you've named a couple that I would love to do, because a lot of people have asked us this in the past, and I always change my mind quite a lot. But there's always two that I always stick with, and that's Blockbusters being one, and Grizzly Young Vets is an ultimate goal to get to. If we ever were able to do a Grizzly Young Vets versus the VC, that would be unbelievable. But I think obviously a really achievable one is Blockbusters when or if they come back from America, given the fact that obviously, they've wrestled in the same companies as us quite a lot. We're friends with them. Yeah. We've wrestled against them in singles matches and some tags, but with different partners. So yeah, I would love to wrestle the Blockbusters at some point, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many good tag teams, and the Blockbusters are actually smashing in America, aren't they?
Oh yeah, flying, yeah, so good, and it's great because we've seen them again in July after like not seeing them for a while. Well, Jordan anyway, and seeing Toby earlier on in the year, and it's so good to see how far they've come from. Because Jordan like started, I think it was like 2 weeks after I did, and he came in as like a little scrawny, skinny lad.
Did he just?
Now he's like obviously how he looks now. You just think it's just two different people, but yeah, they're absolutely smashing it, and it's great to see. To be fair.
Because a lot of these
so natural as well. Like I remember my first day on Reach, I was put in there with Jordan, and I couldn't believe he was only been training for like 4 months at that time.
Yeah,
and Toby as well. When I first started training with him, his first training session, I thought he was like from up country. He was that good. Like he impressed Joel. Like so, yeah, those two, they're going to the top of the business. I reckon.
Yeah, they got the look, haven't they? They got the look.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So
real wrestlers.
Yeah, well, you're all real wrestlers, to be fair. But so going back to Unit 10, because we mentioned that briefly, how was that different for you? Obviously, apart from having no fans there, how was that wrestling with just other wrestlers around than it is with fans?
Go on, you wrestled before.
The first one that I did, it was against Lucky. It was a bit weird because it was the first time it was like a TV style taping as well. So I had to know where the hard cam was. Couldn't play to the fans that were there. I had to play to the hard cam, the people that were watching at home. I remember wrestling Eddie Ryan. There was like no fans there whatsoever. And yeah, it kind of hindered me a little bit because I'm more into like crowd work and getting under the fans' skin. So to wrestle him in front of like 0 people when like 2 years ago prior, he was in the pavilions. It was a bit daunting, to say the least.
Because I must admit, in the old days, I always used to like booing you. I always used to like booing you in the old days. Before you were nice. Before you were nice.
It was weird though, Unit 10, because like even still, because when we like had like almost the audience was basically like students who weren't ready to go on shows yet. So it was kind of like it was really difficult to play to them because you knew them. Whereas when you go out on a live show, you know, majority of the time you don't know the audience. You go out and they're kind of there to be entertained rather than, you know, the guys that were there for Unit 10. It was very different vibe in terms of like, and I'm the same as Dan. Like I was back then, especially because I wasn't very good. I was very new to wrestling. Like I was relying on my mouthpiece, being a mouthpiece and like crowd work. I couldn't even do that because it was kind of like, well, nobody's really going to react because they're all part of the academy anyway, compared to like a Mr. Brown would react, for instance. So, very different in terms of when I eventually got onto. I found it even easier when we got to like actually doing live shows. Like I found it so much easier than what it was when we were doing Unit 10s.
Yes, I imagine as well the crowd being there and participating adds so much to the atmosphere. It must have felt so odd in comparison doing the shows to no fans.
Oh God, yeah.
Like the atmosphere in general.
Me and Dan recently, we've had like a couple of matches where it's been like the crowd have been so good from the minute we walk through the door, through the curtain to like the end of the match. Like you come away thinking, oh, this is why we do it. Like this is unbelievable. And then you have like every now and then you'll have a match. I mean, me and Dan had a match like last weekend where when we come out, it was dead silent because we were in a new town. And it was like, oh God. But within like sort of like 10 seconds, we've managed to get a couple of people to boo us and the crowd started getting onto it. And then when the baby faces come out, the meat wagon came flying out. It was like, all right, the crowd's back up again because they just didn't know how to take to us to begin with. They didn't know whether they were going to come out and they're supposed to be cheering us or what. So it was that was like a bit of a blast from the past, really, because we haven't really had that for a long time, really.
It's a bit of an art getting the crowd to hate you straight away, isn't it?
Yeah, Dan does it very well.
He does.
I'll try my best.
Is that punchable face, isn't it? I suppose. Sorry, Dan. So anyway, moving on. Before I get myself into too much trouble next time he sees me, there's a new. Well, I say new. It's been going for a few shows now, but TCW. What made you want to start it up?
Well, it was kind of like I was speaking to Ethan, who I run it with, because obviously he does Odyssey, where we were last weekend up in Morecambe.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like I was really complaining basically on the way back from Morecambe. We were speaking to Meatwagon, who we faced back then at the same time, the same team that we faced last weekend. And they were like, oh, yeah, you guys busy? Like, we've got 3 this weekend, 2 weekends time. We've got another double header. Then the weekend after that, we've got another 3. And we're like, nah, this is like our only match until like next month because there's just no shows down in the Southwest. Like, there was literally Reach. CPW had stopped running shows. OCW had stopped running shows. Like, the only thing close after Reach would have been, well, I don't know, like Evo, which was
UPW,
yeah. Evo, a little bit further up, so like 2 hours away. And so, and we weren't like on those cards. So we were like having one show per month, if that, sometimes. So I sort of said to Ethan, like, oh, there needs to be more promotions down here now that, 2 of them have kind of stopped running shows in Cornwall. So he was like, well, I'd want to run shows down here eventually. I'd like to get to that point. So I said to him, well, if you do, I'm more than happy to help you out. And he said, well, if I do it, I don't want to do it as like a money for anything for money. I'd rather do it as like a non-profit and to actually like raise some money for charity at the same time. So I was like, well, definitely count me in then. And I've kind of like grown into where I was just supposed to help him to the point where I'm like kind of co-running it with him.
Yeah.
I think he's like the main boss of it, but I'll be a big part of it at the same time and help run things, I guess.
Yeah. So you enjoy it, Dan, obviously, taking it, tagging with Luke in TCW? Because you're a very nice face over there, aren't you?
What TCW is that they focus more on stories and telling stories. The storyline that Luke and I have got right now, probably one of the best storylines I've had in wrestling, because at Reach, I would be in a storyline and then halfway through, it would just like abruptly end for no reason whatsoever, like the security thing with people, for example.
That was good, that one.
So, there's a lot of gripping stories going on at TCW at the moment. All I'll say is stay tuned.
But speaking of the gripping stories, how are you both feeling about your upcoming match against each other as part of the tournament?
Wow. That's the thing. So obviously it's a very much a coincidental thing, right? So Dan declared that he would like to be part of the Tamar, the King of Tamar tournament, and I can't blame him for doing so. It's a fantastic opportunity to be, crowned as the King of Tamar, and then you get a shot at whoever's holding that belt right there, whether it's Josh, whether it's somebody else by the time the tournament ends. So with that being said, if Dan is going to enter that tournament, that leaves me with nothing really to do. So I decided to also enter the tournament, and now we pulled each other in the first round. So, I mean, I guess it's the luck of the draw. Eventually, it would have come down to us either way because we ain't going to lose, Dan. But now we've got to face each other in the first round where one of us can only go through. But as Dan said when he cut the promo at the last TCW show, he wanted to be a TCW heavyweight champion. It's a belt that he is, or a championship and a belt that he has never won. A heavyweight title. I haven't won a singles title at all. So as much as I was kind of focused on the tag team side of it right now, we haven't got tag team belts at TCW yet. Okay, I'll pivot, and if Dan would like to go down the singles route for now, then so will I.
I could have done both, to be fair. I mean, I could have been like British Bulldog and Owen Hart back in '97, You could have had a secondary title, like the TCW Supplementary Championship. You could have held that, And then we could have, if tag team titles come along, we could have held that as well. We could have ran TCW together. Or could have.
So apart from each other in the tournament, who's your biggest competition?
I mean, there's some big names in there. You look at how good Hood was the last time, well, the few times he's come down. Actually, Hood's been very good, and he's recently coming off the back of wrestling Eric Young. So Hood coming down is always a threat. He's a menacing figure. He's a big boy as well. Lucky he hasn't picked up a win yet at TCW. Win a match at TCW, but it's still lucky. Me and Dan have wrestled him many, many times. We know how good he can be. He just hasn't really shown it at TCW yet. So maybe that tournament will spark something in Lucky, and he might pick up a win or two, and then it might rejuvenate him. But there's also, from the Lions Den, you've got the likes of Devon Fulton coming in, Heath, who's been around already and beaten Alex Campbell.
Yeah.
Alex Campbell's also in the tournament. He's just beaten somebody from Rev Pro. So there's actually loads of people now, loads of wrestlers in that tournament.
It's like a star-studded tournament, isn't it, really? Yeah.
It's a really good tournament.
Yeah.
And then the final guy that we've got in there, just been announced, is Rich the Invisible Man. And nobody's seen that one coming.
Is that just John Cena in another name, is it?
Exactly. So he's got to face Lucky in the first round. So that's going to be a good contest because Rich is coming off the back of a win at TCW as well. Lucky hasn't won one. So it's quite interesting, this tournament, to be honest.
It is.
The first round itself is already quite intriguing.
You're going back to Lucky because, I mean, like a lot of them, because I've been watching like Reach and that for a long time, and before that Pride, I've seen a lot of you guys making your debuts and developing through all of it, and it's fantastic because Lucky's come on so well. He's brilliant now. Although what I will say is he's not got Victor Brady to hide behind now, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the trouble. Shout out to Victor Brady, who's retired.
Yeah.
A good friend of ours.
I always like watching him wrestle. He was fantastic. And he was a genuinely nice guy outside the ring as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
What a bloke. What a bloke. Other than when he attacked us. What a bloke.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, good reason to be fair. Like,
he's always lifted people up in the locker room as well. He's a big laugh in the locker room, and I think it's going to be missed big time. Such a top bloke, right? I've got nothing bad to say about him.
Is he still going to be around watching stuff?
I think. Yeah, I think we hope so. We've already said to him at TCW, there's going to be a role for you if you want it.
Nice.
Because I'd have Victor Brady in the locker room, just back there, just cracking jokes if he wanted to. Because it just brings the locker room up, no matter what. Like having a locker room without him in it is worse off. So him leaving wrestling altogether is a sad day because we don't have that backstage at all. So hopefully he decides to stick around in some way, just because for set reasons more than anything. But yeah, Lucky as well. I mean, we've wrestled loads of times. Dan's wrestled Lucky so many times as well, and it's even just in the last year or so, Lucky has come on leaps and bounds again from when I wrestled him when he was Academy champion. That's my favorite singles match was against Lucky. And I think even since then, if we face each other in this tournament, say I do beat Dan, I'm saying I will, but if I do, and Lucky somehow manages to beat Rich the Invisible Man, and I eventually face Lucky, I think that match is going to be better and top off the match that I had with him last June, which I do consider to be my best ever singles match.
Because you've been to TCW a couple of times, Kirsty, haven't you?
Yeah. Really enjoyed both shows that I've been to.
And I'm making my first appearance in a couple of weeks. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to that. And so now you're doing all your shows in Plymouth. Do you see yourself in direct competition with Reach?
I don't, because it's weird. So Reach was my home base. No longer there now. Neither of us are. We won't be on any shows, unfortunately, for people who would like to go to Reach and see the VC there. They just don't want to use us anymore, which is fine. I think they see TCW as indirect rivalry, but it was never going to be that way for us. As I said, the reason why we wanted to start TCW was to give more opportunities for people down here to have more matches. But in doing so, certain people want to punish the people down here and still make that more difficult. So we're ending up in the same situation where we was, but you have to kind of take allegiance as to what side you want to take, unfortunately. So that's the downside, but that's the decision that other people want to make. Definitely not us. For me and Ethan at TCW, we don't care where you wrestle outside of TCW, but if you want to put on a good performance for us, then we're more than happy to have you there. So yeah, we're doing it in Plymouth. I mean, the first show was in Salt Ash. It was only just outside of Plymouth, and we sold 150 tickets. The venue was a nightmare to kind of like book for a second show. So we had to find a different venue if we wanted to do a second show so that we could announce it on that show. And the only place we could really get was in Plymouth, but it wouldn't have made sense, to go further into Cornwall because 90% of the tickets we sold were people from Plymouth or further on instead of people from Cornwall. So it was kind of like, we'll stay around where, you know, the people, and I think there's a big enough fan base in and around Plymouth, people who want to see more wrestling shows. And I think that's it. We're just trying to put our name out there to try and attract those people in to go, hey, look, all right, you like Reach shows, but you will also like this as well. We're not saying don't ever go to that show anymore, only come to us. We're saying come along to this as well, because you might enjoy this just as much, maybe more, who knows.
Yeah, I think that's good though, because like speaking as a fan, it's not always like an either or thing, and I think it's only a good thing to have more options as a fan as well as a wrestler, I assume, to go to other places. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily see it, especially because the landscape is always changing as well. Like you were saying earlier, you know, you had OCW, you had CPW, you had DWA as well. And those kind of all going at a similar time and so quickly. There was a space effectively for more shows, and you guys have sort of filled the gap in the market, as it were. So it can only be a good thing, really.
To be honest with you, I'll begrudgingly admit this. Plymouth is a fantastic wrestling hotbed. The fans down there are fantastic. Puts Exeter to shame, really. But I think with Plymouth, there's enough rooms for 2 or 3 even promotions to still keep on going and thrive. I mean, like you say, you don't have to go to one and not the other.
Yeah, absolutely. Big city. And I always, from the beginning, I wanted to work alongside Reach to avoid booking shows the same weekends and booking the same people against each other, that side of things. So, you know, that's the reason why we were using a lot of people from the Lions Den, because they weren't on Reach shows. So it was kind of like, you know, there's people local to us that we could use that local fans miss. They miss seeing Country Big. They miss seeing Heath, or, you know, people who are at Lions Den. Eddie Ryan still hasn't been seen for a long, long time.
He's a local boy. He's like
and he is literally
hero.
Yeah. So eventually, hopefully, we can get Eddie Ryan on a TCW show.
That'd be cool,
because, you know, he's not going to appear at Reach anytime soon. So that's originally that was the whole plan, was to have a mixture of people from the Lions Den and Reach to show that, like, look, we've got myself and Ethan and TCW. We don't care where people train or, you know, whatever's gone on in the past. Our first match was Reach's Lucky versus Lions Den's Country Big. That was our first match. And the reason why that was our first match was because I said to Ethan, let's do a Lions Den versus Reach person in the first show, in the first match, to show everybody who would be in the know, like, oh, look, they're booking both. It doesn't matter. And that's, you know, that's the reason why that was done. It was done intentionally for that reason, and why we are still doing things like that. We've had, you know, I mean, the title match itself turned out to be Alexander Gray of Reach and Country Big of Lions Den. So it just so happened there's been loads like that. That's happened since TCW shows. And the best case scenario would have been that we would all still be wrestling on all of these shows, so that people who would go to all of these shows can, you know, see their favorites on every show and not get blown out or burnt out seeing the same people over and over again. But unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, unless things change in the future. But at TCW, we're trying to make it so that it's very varied, which I think so far we've done quite a good job doing that.
I would say as well, to piggyback on what you were saying about Plymouth being a really good area for wrestling, I will say with the most recent venue you've had for TCW, it's just a really, really good atmosphere there. And then you've got the option as well for more interaction with the crowd, and having the matches kind of spill out into the crowd and up the steps. It's really, really fun at that last show I was at. You'd really enjoy that.
I can't wait. It's a
fantastic venue at Stoke Downborough. The venues that we've had previously have been good. But I always felt like, oh, we can do better with this. We can do better. And then we eventually stumbled upon the Stoke Downwell venue. And, oh, yeah, you're right. The atmosphere was so loud. Like, we were all backstage going, oh, my God. Like, because I think with it being like very much like a theatre hall, the atmosphere just kind of like stayed in the room. There wasn't anywhere for it to go. So any noise that was made just, yeah, it was echo. It was very loud, especially just even backstage. You could hear it. It was great because all the wrestlers then it really hypes you up.
Yeah.
We heard like from the beginning, as soon as me and Dan went out in the beginning on the mic, like we come backstage and everybody's like, oh my God, that is so loud already. It's like, yeah, and it's like the match not even started yet. That's how good it is. So yeah, it's fantastic venue.
But I remember we were at the your last appearance at Reach at the anniversary show, wasn't it? So the New Continental, and I've never heard a crowd so angry. Not just make believe angry as it is, but proper angry about it, and it just shows how popular you two guys were at Reach. And then you lost the belts like that. It's a bit sad, really.
Yeah, I mean, we could go into it if you want, but.
Well, I don't mind if you do. It's up to you. But
that we really
fair enough.
It's
fair
not
enough.
something that we liked at all.
No.
No.
We could tell that at the time.
In that venue, like 2 months before, and it was great. Like the atmosphere then was phenomenal. Like as soon as we won, like the roof nearly got blown off the place. That was fantastic. Obviously, that match in the anniversary show was against Victor Brady and Lucky.
Yeah.
So it was two guys we knew really well.
That was a cracking match up to the ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite matches I've ever had.
Me too. Bell to bell. Absolutely. The stuff that happened after it.
Yeah.
Jason coming out demanding that we aren't leaving with the belts. I mean, all of that stuff just sucked.
Yeah.
It was horrendous. So we kind of, I mean, we've made our piece of it now. Yeah. I got very agitated after the match. I got out of the ring and shouted some stuff that I ain't proud of, but that's how I felt. And, you know, it's one of those things. I think I felt really disrespected before the match. I felt disrespected after the match.
Yeah.
I know Dan did too. People going through our stuff backstage to get title belts. It's like, what? That should not be happening.
No.
But that's part of the reason as well why you probably won't see us again on Reach shows, and part of the reason why a lot of people have decided to not do Reach shows anymore.
It's like I've noticed there's a lot of people that used to go on the front row to Reach.
Yeah.
Very rarely go now. They'll go. There's a few of us. I'll go on the odd occasion, but I'll have to see who's on the card before I'll go.
I think a couple of people have said that to me as well. In like a lot of the TCW audience who seem to, you know, have been giving us a lot of praise for how entertained they have been by the shows. Like they'll also message us when things aren't great, and a lot of the feedback from, you know, them going to the shows is, oh, like guys, you're putting on unbelievable shows. Like just keep it up because like else we haven't got that type of thing. In other words, saying, you know, they've been to the Reach show and maybe it's not for them anymore. But they're still doing well because they're still selling tickets, obviously. And
that's what it's all about, isn't it? Selling tickets.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
As long as they're happy, you know, to watch a wrestling show, you know.
That's right. Yeah. You can't criticize anybody if you want to, whatever way you go and watch, can you? Really? And like I say, I'll just go and watch. I'll base it Reach now on who's on the card. To be honest with you. But seeing those,
I think a lot of like people would do that definitely.
But seeing how well or how badly the crowd at Reach took it, a lot of the crowd just goes to show how popular and over you two guys are.
Yeah, I think. Go on, Dan. I spoke quite a lot. You go for this one.
I mean, I was glad that it happened that way. I'm not gonna lie, but it is what it is. I'm over it now. My main focus now is basically the future. Who knows what the future holds? I'm very excited to see what the future holds for the VC.
I think you mentioned like the crowd reaction. It was only a year ago that we were getting booed out of the building. So the change that we've had, because the anniversary show the year before was when we first won the titles. That was the very first time we won the titles, and it was a long time coming. We were asking for opportunities and opportunities and opportunities. We weren't ever given them. When we finally got a tag title opportunity against 3 other teams, we won it, and the place booed us out of the building. But then the show after, when we come out, we got like instantly cheered, and we were kind of thinking, what is changed here? Like this is a little bit bizarre.
Yeah.
Then the show after that, again, we come out and we're getting cheered. It's kind of, it's 50-50 and we're not sure what's happening. Until this year, we decided to embrace it in like, I think it was the February show when we come out and decided to embrace it for the first time. And the audience have been very much behind us, and we've benefited from it, definitely, because it does pump.
Wrestling Matt the Ref made me change my ways. I'm no longer evil, and it's all thanks to that match with Matt the Ref.
Poor Matt.
Yeah, it's lovely feeling. And it was also a great feeling when, as gutted as we were to be screwed out of the titles, because we were definitely screwed. Jason and Brad were never in the match that we lost the titles, and I was tied up to the ring. So it was very much a handicap match. And
I just got DQ as well with a steel chair.
Yeah,
exactly. We've just had a brawl. So we were screwed out of the titles. It was great to hear that the Reach Army were not happy about it at all as well. But unfortunately, I don't even think we're going to get our rematch.
No, probably
I don't think that's happening.
Too much of a threat, that's why.
Well, exactly. They're scared. They're shook.
They are. But just goes, out of adversity comes something better. You've taken the opportunity and you've run with it.
That's true. I think it's nice. We've got like a lot of respect from the audience compared to where we were, obviously, like 18 months ago now. And yeah, maybe we're seen as too much of a threat for a rematch. Possibly.
But I think as well, what's out... Sorry, Steph.
Fair to say that we're probably like the best British tag team champions of all time. That's no hyperbole, and that's not me like believing my own hype or our own hype. Like, we basically tried to make those belts mean something. We had some really good matches over the last year with TMB, the Big Jimmer, and James Ellis.
Yeah.
Merchant University, that was a really good one I enjoyed as well. And Steel Storm. Such a shame that the reign had to end like that.
Yeah.
But like you said, that's in the past now, and you can flourish in even more than what you were before, really.
Yeah, I think so. We've had some cracking matches at TCW as well. At Two Boys, they're two of the best in the country. Even like Benjamin Stone and Ripper Reed, they're not necessarily a tag team, but they're two unbelievable wrestlers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously our old foes, GL2, on the last show.
Why?
We didn't get the win, unfortunately, thanks to Dan. But
hey, they hit you with a chair,
fight. They did.
Yeah, you just be careful you don't use any underhanded tactics on you in the tournament match.
Yeah, so that didn't play out too well. We didn't get the win, unfortunately. It's our first loss at TCW. But we should have won. And that's the main thing. We take the positives from that. We should have won that one.
Well, it's nice to see that part owner's happy to lose in his own promotion. So, you don't always get that everywhere, do you? So
rarely happens, does it?
Well, not down this end of the country anyway. But
although I do have the belt there, it does look a little bit.
Yeah.
But I said to Josh, said to him, I was like, look, if you could take it home and nobody see it, or I put it on my backdrop and everybody sees it. And when they go, oh, is that your tile? I go, no, it's Country Big's.
Problem is with Country Big as well, though. He'll probably have it on the farm somewhere and he'll get splattered in muck, won't he, when he's on his tractor.
It's too good for that.
It's a lovely belt.
It's a beautiful tile for everybody who would like to see it.
Yeah, it's a nice tile.
Can't wait to win it one day.
Well, we'll see, Dan.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lovely title. Very well earned from Country Big. But yeah, I'm looking after it for him right now.
Keeping it warm for him. Yeah,
that's it. It looks nice and shiny on YouTube for a few weeks.
But you're going back to being popular. But obviously, Luke, you've done really well with your Football Manager podcast and that. But I've always used to like Danny's alternative commentaries as well. They were fantastic. I used to love them. They're fantastic. That's what first got me warned on to Danny, you know.
Pain in the backside to do. So I'd have to screen record the match because I didn't have like a laptop or anything. And then the text-to-speech program I had to use had no download option. So I had to screen record that, upload it onto Google Drive, and then upload it onto the Power Directive thing. And they used to take me so long to do, like hours and hours and hours.
That's
Well,
dedication.
yeah. Well, seeing what you were like trying to get on here tonight, I'm surprised you managed to do that. But you know,
worth it though, Dan.
Yeah,
it was top tier content.
It was. Yeah.
It was, but you know, top lockdown content mainly because I had nothing to do.
Yeah.
Because everyone was shut in their houses. But
yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned earlier you went up to Morecambe for Odyssey Wrestling. Do you wrestle anywhere else apart from TCW and Odyssey?
Yeah, we've regularly being booked at the minute at UCW, Ultimate Championship Wrestling.
Right.
So
where's that
we're
based?
2-2 their tag team. Yeah. Sorry?
Where's that based?
Undefeated there.
Where is it based? What was the next one to, Dan? Because they changed venue.
It was in Trowbridge at the Civic Centre.
Oh, Wiltshire, yeah. Oh, right, yeah.
And they moved it to Westbury.
That's right.
I have no idea where Westbury is. It's like in the middle of nowhere. And it's in a sports venue, so the acoustic's very bad.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Do they get good crowds?
I love that.
We've been there twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we wrestled Cameron Merchant and Will Roberts in the first one. Picked up the win there. And then we wrestled on the last show that they did in July, Cameron Merchant, who then didn't have a tag partner, and out came their champion, Tristan Hayes. So it was the heavyweight champion and Cameron Merchant against the VC, and we still picked up the win.
Well done, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Mentioned in the ranks as well.
Yeah.
We made those two friends enemies now, and the next show they'll be facing each other in a 2 out of 3 falls match, and the VC will be facing Sweet C and Jay Matthews.
Ooh,
yeah. So it's two that we haven't wrestled before, but it's upcoming, and another win. I think if they ever start bringing out tag titles, we've got to have a shout for that because we are definitely top the league there.
I see Cam's champion in Ring Wrestling Stars as well, isn't he?
Yes, we wrestled 2 times there actually.
Yeah.
We were supposed to wrestle last weekend, but we accidentally double booked ourselves where we were at Odyssey, so we couldn't do the Ring Wrestling Stars. We had a couple of matches because I think Dave, you actually seen us on one of the shows.
Yeah. Because I think I saw Brad Starr and Victor Brady was at that show as well.
Yeah, so it was.
They were just watching though.
We've had a couple of good matches there. Hopefully we get invited back. Unfortunately, obviously we got double booked, which wasn't great on our part. But
was that
hopefully next year they bring us back?
Was that the one in Axminster? Because I think that I was looking at the brochure and looking at the matches that we did have, and it was all a bit moved around. I did wonder why.
Because the VC can claim to have the claim to fame of being Kirsty's mum's favourite wrestlers.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know what? She is genuinely.
She was gutted when you couldn't turn up. Yeah.
And she's genuinely really upset about Victor Brady retiring.
Yeah,
and obviously, that was the night before he announced his retirement. I messaged my mum. She was really upset.
Yeah. Well, you got to see his last ever match, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. But it was a big shock because it was we didn't have any idea that was coming.
Didn't you?
We were on our way back from Morecambe, and all of a sudden we seen the post, and we were like, "What the hell?" He didn't even tell us.
Yeah, he probably knew you'd try and talk him out of it.
That's probably why. That is probably why. But yeah, it's sad to see. But hey, it's his decision. If he's happy with that, again,
he's got to do what's best for him, hasn't he?
Exactly. Yeah, I know. Like he's picked up a couple of injuries recently, which he's trying to, sort of like get rid of, and just continuously wrestling on it is never going to help. I found that out with my shoulder this year, so it's kind of been like, maybe that's had a part of it. A lot of the stuff has got to do with the reach stuff, that the fallout of all of that, and his love for the business, and but as long as he sticks around, there's always a chance he can come back.
Yeah, well, never say never, eh?
Yeah. That's what I'll say.
So, with you, obviously speaking about branching out and wrestling and other promotions, something that I've wanted to ask, kind of adjacent to that, how do you guys make sure that you stand out in what is a really densely populated market?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think being in a tag team kind of has its advantages in a way, because if you got like matching ring gear, you've got some chemistry together, you're wrestling. If a promoter sees you doing stuff in a tag team match, which, makes the tag team match different to a singles match in terms of the chemistry in the ring, it's putting together tag team moves, you got that added drama of it being a tag team match. So the third and the fourth person can make a difference in the match when the match seems it's over, then I think you always stand a chance of really standing out. And I think that's why me and Dan, for such a long time, were having some of the best matches on the card, because we were just making our matches so different to anything else that people would see, that we'd be the ones that they would remember. I think our disadvantage, unfortunately, is our location. I think we weren't sat down in the ass of nowhere in the UK. We might get booked in other places as well, but unfortunately, wrestling is a business where you've got to be very tight with the money, and paying for somebody to come all the way from Plymouth, just sometimes it's not viable, unfortunately. So
sometimes you need a car full, don't you, as well, to get it.
That's it, yeah. So maybe that's sometimes why we're not on as many cards as what we wish, and as many promotions as we'd love to work for, because we went all the way up to Morecambe. That's a 6.5 hour drive. Last weekend.
The last weekend's trip was horrible.
Yeah, it was horrible, but it was so worth it, and we had such a blast. And wrestling the meat wagon guys again, is an absolute honour. So hopefully we can be seeing more at Morecambe. In the new year at Odyssey, we'd love to do that. There's loads of tag teams up around that area that I would love to get in the ring with. And then more again, like there's loads of other promotions around the country. Like if they're looking for a tag team, like we would love to be on that show. Absolutely.
Well, you deserve it, to be fair. I'd love to see you in UPW at places like that, or at New Wave. New Wave in Wales, that'd be a good one as well. But I think
Wave as well.
Going back to tag teams, you got a lot of chemistry, obviously, as you just said, but I think fans can tell who a proper tag team are. You can see the chemistry, the moves. You can throw two people together, and they might be good wrestlers, brilliant wrestlers, but they don't click in the ring. And that's I think fans prefer to see a proper tag team like you guys.
I think as well the gear when you look like a team like you guys do, for me that makes a difference as well.
Yeah, definitely. We got two sexy singlets. The yellow and the green, it matches very well. We always look good on the Yeah. So I think and I think it helps as well. Like we're not just like good mates in the ring. Like Dan is one of my best mates outside of the ring. Like we talk pretty much every day. So the chemistry that you see in the ring is because we get on so well outside of the ring, which maybe people who aren't a tag team, where they're just put in a tag team match, you might not have that. Me and Dan gel very well because we're good mates outside the ring. We're talking all the time. Sometimes, like, I'll just be watching something, or Dan will be watching something. We'll see something cool, and we're like, send it to each other and be like, we need to try this. And then you might see it pop up the next match or something. So we're trying something new. But yeah, I think it's definitely a testament to our friendship outside the ring, why, we've come along so well in terms of in-ring stuff.
Oh yeah, you can tell you're really tight. Yeah, it's like I'd love to see you take on the Smoking Aces one day.
I was just thinking that.
So, we're tag team.
Yeah. That's the other one that's always on, the Smoking Aces, and then Sunshine Machine as well.
Oh yeah.
Those two are the other two that I always think about when people ask who our dream matches are.
Well, obviously, the Smoking Aces did just win the tag championships at UPW, so maybe room for you guys to come in and challenge.
Possibly.
There's a show in Exeter in February.
We'll have to sort out Mark Fry, won't we?
Yeah.
I won't wear Margot shirt if that was the case, but
But we'd love to. I mean, facing the Smoking Aces at any point is that to me they're the best tag team in the UK. Them and Grizzled Young Vets.
Yeah.
It's those two, then it's probably Sunshine Machine. Like those three teams there are what I would consider the best. But the Smoking Aces, I think, are the best.
Absolutely.
So I've been watching them tag team at Progress and stuff, and it's fantastic to see. So they had a great couple of weekends. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Progress tag champs, UPW tag champs.
Yeah.
They look really good doing it as well. Like, you can't deny it. Whenever they've got like gold around their waist, it looks like it's supposed to be there.
And they're forming a stable with Simon Miller and Adam Max does as well in UPW, so that's going to be some stable, isn't it, really?
No, quite close to Simon Miller.
Yeah. I suppose podcasters, aren't you? Yeah.
Similar background.
Yeah.
He is the reason why I do what I do for a living, because I went on his podcast.
Right.
I went on his podcast to talk about Japanese wrestling. Then he invited me back on to talk about it after the event happened. Then he invited me on for a third show. And after the third time he invited me on, at the end, he said to me, "Look, you just got to start your own." He's like, "I've invited you on 3 times now. Just start your own."
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, I'm thinking about it." And he goes, if you start your own, I'll come on as one of your first guests. So I had Simon Miller as one of my first guests. And then from that, I started YouTube, and that's now my career. So we seen Simon, Dan. It was like
Progress. So we're doing Ring Through back in January.
Is it January? Oh, it was January. Yeah. We seen Simon back in January at a Progress show, and I went over to him and spoke to him, and he remembered, thankfully, who I was. That'd been awkward if he did. But I thanked him then and just sort of said, like, my career is thanks to going on the podcast with you, and he's such a humble bloke. He's absolutely lovely person, like one of the nicest people in wrestling. But I had a lovely little chat with him. Dan almost wanted to chin him because he said, "Hey, we're both bald. We should be tag team partners." And Dan got really upset. I'm really sorry, but that guy right there staring at you now
we
is
could be like a 3-man team, like with Brady last year.
Yeah,
exactly.
Brady retired, us 3 up and down the road.
Yeah, it'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because we interviewed Simon, he was a fantastic bloke.
We need to get involved and speak to Simon a bit.
Yes.
I'm not shaving my head though. No.
I quite suit you though, Dan, if you shaved your head.
From this though, I kind of want to see a match between Simon and Luke.
Yeah.
Like the story with a match between them two would be good. I kind of want to see that rather than a team with you guys.
I'll let you in on a secret. It nearly happened once.
Yeah.
Really?
It nearly happened once. Yeah. I can't remember. I think the date for the show that it was supposed to be on got changed, and then Simon was already booked on a different show, so it couldn't happen.
Yeah.
But it was supposed to. We were supposed to have a singles match. So I was gutted about that. Because I think singles-wise, he is the guy that I would want to wrestle the most.
Yeah. Because like I say, we interviewed him back in the day before COVID, and he was such a nice guy. It was Southwest Wrestling, wasn't it? And he's such a nice guy. So, like you say, humble. And he'll talk to anybody.
Fantastic.
At a show, he'll talk to all the fans.
I only recently found out he's an Arsenal fan, which lets him down.
Well,
other than that.
Could be worse. He could be a Plymouth Argyle fan.
Could be worse. Could be an Everton fan.
What?
Yeah.
That's true, actually. Yeah. So going on to like the podcast, we won't keep you for much longer, but going on to podcast, being the Football Manager's top podcast that you are, do you get much of a crossover between your Football Manager fans? They actually watch your wrestling matches because it's you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think there's like a weird crossover with like Football Manager players and wrestling fans. Even in just like the people who do YouTube videos, there's like 4 or 5 of us who, when Royal Rumble happens, we'll all jump into a Discord call and we'll watch the Royal Rumble together. Like there's quite a lot of content creators themselves who watch the wrestling. So there's definitely a big crossover in terms of people who play Football Manager, watch my YouTube videos, and then watch wrestling as well. But there's also just people who are just curious. So I post quite a lot of my matches on certain, whether it be like a second channel or the promotion themselves have posted it, and then I'll share it on my own YouTube channel. Like, hey guys, whoever's interested to watch the wrestling, here it is. A lot of it's obviously been mine and Dan's tag matches recently and on TikToks and stuff. And you get a few people who are like really confused, like, what the hell? I've never seen him without a hat, because I always wear hats doing videos and stuff. And then they're blown away that I've got no hair. But it's also like a lot of people are very invested in the storylines. Like, I know me and Dan, we always speak to a guy called Peter, who I think he's from the Netherlands or
Holland, yeah.
Yeah. And he's never been to watch like any of our matches because of his location, but he is up to date on everything we do, and he'll watch every single match that we put out online when it is. And you know, he, as soon as the match got announced that me and Dan were against each other, he was right on the blower, like, what is going on? How has this happened? So yeah, it's fantastic, the nice little crossover. Occasionally I'll be at a wrestling show and there'll be somebody who's watched me on YouTube and stuff like that who I'll speak to. There's actually been a few wrestlers actually that deal. When we went to Morecambe last week, Dan, wasn't it? There was a couple of guys up there who are big Football Manager guys. So yeah, it's a weird, nice little crossover. I love that though.
See, it's the VC going international, isn't it? Really, Holland, all over the world now. Yeah.
That's it. There's been a couple of guys message who, again, through Football Manager, who are trying to work into getting us over to their country. So there's been two in the last like 3 months, I think. I mean, it was one that was in the Czech Republic. He's working on getting us over there.
Nice.
And then there was going to Prague. That'd be great.
Weekend in Prague.
We'll book a long weekend. Yeah. And then I think there was one in Denmark like 3 months ago.
Nice.
Who kind of said like, you know, I'd love to get you and your tag partner over here. So, I mean, hopefully things like that happen because we've got to wrestle in different countries.
Well, you certainly deserve it. Both certainly
Thank
deserve it.
Thank you.
You know, because like I say, from the first time I saw you together, I thought this works, and you know, you just want to see you do really well.
No, I appreciate that. I'm glad it comes across that way because it definitely feels that way when we're in the ring. I think so. Having people feed that back to us, that like, oh yeah, you know, we see it too. It's kind of like, okay, good. Whatever we're doing is working at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, should we call it an end, shall we?
Yes, thank you again for taking the time to come and talk with us.
No, it was a pleasure.
Really,
it's been a pleasure. Always nice chatting to you two guys, whether it's at the wrestling or on tonight or anything.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having us on. Really do appreciate it.
No. Cheers. I hope we see you soon. See you in a couple of weeks.
See you again soon.
We will.
Yeah.
TCW, yeah.
Yeah. You take care.
Friendly then.
TC Duff. TC Duff.
For sure.
Don't ask me to pick sides, though. Don't ask me to pick sides in that match.
No, absolutely. But yeah, if anybody would like to come along, November 2nd, TCW, it's the King of Tamar tournament at Stoke Downwell in Plymouth. Tickets are only £6, or you can get a family ticket for £20. So it's worth the money to come along and see fantastic wrestling.
Absolute bargain. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.